Ho, ho, ho! Is this thing on? Mic check. One sleigh, two sleigh. That's right. I've got a podcast now. Stories, jokes, and some serious North Pole nonsense. Santa Has a Podcast is out now at santahasapodcast.com. Ho, ho, ho!
Support American jobs while standing up for your values. OldGloryDepot.com brings you conservative pride on premium, made-in-USA gear. Don't settle. Wear your patriotism proudly. Visit OldGloryDepot.com today.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With a yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Welcome to another episode of Breaking Battlegrounds with the host Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone. Our first guest up today, Congressman Mike Simpson, friend of the program and representative for Idaho's 2nd Congressional District. He serves on the House Appropriations Committee. Follow him on X at Cong Mike Simpson, C-O-N-G, Mike Simpson.
Welcome, Congressman. How are you doing today?
Good. It's good to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. So just briefly, we don't want to discuss this topic much here with our limited time with you, but there was a resolution honoring Charlie Kirk and condemning political violence that passed the House 310 to 58. However, 58 Democrats voted against it and 38 just voted present. What is wrong with these people?
I don't know. It is a sad state of affairs that we've gotten into. This is obviously a political suicide or a political assassination, and we've got to, in this country, we've got to learn to be able to talk to each other and talk to people that we disagree with and debate issues, and not make it so personal that you think you have to go out and kill somebody. This is obviously gotten way too far, but why they would vote against a resolution honoring his life and legacy is a mystery to me. But it shows us how far we've gone in the wrong direction.
Let me ask you a question. This is something that has concerned me. We talk about unity in this country. You've been in Congress long enough and had more than one rodeo. I like to tell people 20 years ago, we had some real basic foundational agreements with the Democrats, whether they were liberal Democrats, and very basic things we all agreed on. It doesn't seem that way anymore. Am I exaggerating the situation, or do you see that way?
No, you're absolutely right. We are getting people get elected, and frankly, on both sides of the aisle to some degree, that get elected, and their goal is to get on TV every night, and they say crazy stuff. I mean, listen to Jasmine Crockett and some of the stuff she says. It's just nuts. And that's their whole goal, is to become public figures like that instead of doing the job that they were elected to do. One of the other things that's caused part of the problem is that years ago, when members got elected to Congress, you only got paid to go home, the travel to go home about 3 times a year. So people would go home for 4th of July and Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever, but they would all move their families out here. And so you spent weekends here in Washington, and you got to know other members from the other political party and stuff. You went to each other's kids' baseball games or to barbecues and stuff. We don't take the time to get to know each other and talk with each other like we should do if you're going to have meaningful discussions with people, and that's too bad. Now it's fly in, do your job here, fly home for the weekend, and come back. And we need to have much more interaction between us, and we don't do that.
I had no knowledge of that. That's an incredible point. I've always said that unless you're, living in the Acela corridor there on the East Coast, being a member of Congress now is really difficult because you have to fly back and forth every week, basically.
Yeah.
And you're bringing up a side of that frankly is a pretty big loss for the American people.
Yeah, it's a huge loss for the American people. You and I can disagree vehemently and passionately on an issue and debate it and argue and everything else, but it's really hard for me to call you names if I know your wife and your kids and that kind of stuff,
Right.
And we've lost that.
Want to move on to something else here, Congressman, because I had yesterday kind of a visceral reaction to a post I saw on X. It was someone who had just arrived at Union Station. I think it's Union Station in D.C. Pardon me if I get that wrong.
Yes, it is Union Station.
But it was beautiful. It was clean. And they said, I'm walking through here. It doesn't smell like urine and feces. Everything is orderly. There's nobody, there's no chaos. It is a total sea change around D.C. with this. These changes that you guys have been backing up in Congress with the D.C. Crimes Act, D.C. Policing Protection Act, Juvenile Sentencing Reform Act, D.C. Judicial Nomination Reform Act. How do Democrats not see this and get on board? Because I got to be honest, I am sick and tired of walking around our major cities and they smell like a sewer and they look like a trash heap.
I agree with you entirely. It is. I don't know how they find themselves on the wrong side of this issue. The American people want security. They want to be able to walk down the street and not be worried about getting mugged or anything else and that kind of stuff. It's amazing to me. And if you look at D.C. now compared to what it was a month ago before President Trump came in and brought in the National Guard to clean it up, it's amazingly different. People feel safer here, and if you talk, this town votes like 98% Democratic, and if you talk to most of the people here, they're glad at what's happening because it's these people that were endangered, and we haven't had a murder in D.C. for like 4 weeks, and that's stunning. You
were lucky before to go 4 hours.
I know it, and so I have a hard time figuring out why the mayor, the Illinois governor, and the mayor of Chicago are going, oh, well, we only lost 11 people to murders this last weekend and 37 other shootings and stuff, and that was a good weekend, No, that's not a good weekend. If I was them and I was mayor of Chicago, I would be calling the White House and saying, can you help us out? And that ought to be happening all around this country, because that's what the American people deserve from their government, and that's what we ought to be delivering.
So the House passed a bill to avert the government shutdown. It passed by 217 to 212, and now it goes to the Senate, where I'm sure the negotiations begin. What do Democrats want? The 212 that voted against this, what are they seeking to avoid a government shutdown?
Well, first of all, you got to remember when we had the CR in March that kept the government open. Chuck Schumer over in the Senate decided to vote for it. He did the right thing, frankly, to not let the government shut down, and voted for it. And he just got his rear end handed to him by Democratic constituency out there. And so now they're in the mode that they've got to stand up and fight. And they've put an alternative that they will vote on in the Senate, which is the Democratic alternative to the Republican continuing resolution, which is our continuing resolution is as clean as it can get. It just continues the government funding at a certain level, at the same level that it currently exists, until we get our appropriation bills done, which we're in the process of doing. But they want to add in about $1 trillion of spending, overturning some of the provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill, or OB3, and they want a whole bunch of money for personal security and other things. So they're just trying to increase spending again. And I will tell you, the one thing that I've discovered, I knew this before, but has really been demonstrated, it is hard to cut spending. And anybody that doesn't realize that this $37 trillion debt that we have in this country that is eating us alive, if we don't address that, it'll bring this country down. And so we've got to make some tough decisions. But it's always hard to cut spending, because no matter what you cut, somebody's going to say, oh, you're taking food out of the mouths of babes, or you're not caring about our children or the health care or anything else. We're trying to do it responsibly. But,
Congressman, I want to throw this out to you real quick, and then Chuck's got a question for you. What percentage of government discretional spending could disappear tonight and people would not know it tomorrow?
Well, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I will tell you, of the discretionary spending, of the total amount the government spends, only 28% of it is discretionary spending. The other is mandatory spending. That's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid mainly, are the three big programs. But we only appropriate money for about 28% of the total government spending. You could probably lose 10, 15, 20% of that and still function and do everything that the American people expect us to do. And we found that out through a lot of the recommendations of DOGE and from the Trump administration of things that we could do better, more efficiently, or question things that we're doing at all, why we should be doing some of these things. So you can make significant reductions, but it's hard to turn this ship of state around. But we're doing it. Our appropriation bills reduced spending by $45 billion this year, and it will be more next year. And that's the direction we've got to keep going if we're going to get this country's fiscal house back in order.
Speaking of, so 78% is mandatory spending. What entitlement or what line item on that 78% do you think is the first thing you can tackle and hopefully reach some bipartisan approach on? I mean, take it block by block. Is it Social Security? Is it Medicare? What is it?
It's 72%. 28% is discretionary.
All right, so 72%. What's the easy? What of that 72%? What's the first block that you feel that you could be fighting tooth and nails, but get bipartisan support to make reform it so you can save money? What would be that? What agency is that?
You have to reform the Medicare system, and that's not to take away Medicare from any individual or anything like that, but you can reform the system and how health care is delivered in this country. But you've got to reform Medicare, and you've got to reform Social Security. When Social Security started, there were 16 and a half workers for every retiree, and the average lifespan was 64 years old. That's a system that pencils out forever. And now there are 2.5 workers for every retiree, and the average lifespan's 75, 78, something
Right.
like that. It doesn't pencil out anymore. So you got to change the system. Again, not to take any benefits away from anybody that's earned those benefits or that's receiving Social Security. But if you're a young person paying into Social Security today, in poll after poll that you asked young people this, they believe they're more likely to see an alien than they are to get Social Security. And they may be right if we don't change the system for the future.
Okay. Congressman, we have just about a minute and a half left here. One thing in Medicare, Medicaid, and the adjacent issue is that just like schools, they have blown up their administration. Do we have to go after regulatory and reporting requirements to get real savings there? Because they're not hiring huge numbers more doctors. They're hiring huge numbers of people who make those doctors fill out paperwork, essentially.
Well, yeah, I think throughout government we've got to reform, do regulatory reform, whether it's just as you mentioned in healthcare, whether it's in our natural resource issues, whether it's mining or timber or anything like that. We've got to reform our regulatory process because it takes too damn long to do anything in this country with the regulatory process. And besides that, when you do that, then you've opened up every step along the way to a lawsuit. And there are entities whose sole purpose in life is to file lawsuits. That's how they make a living and stuff. And so we got to change that. If we'd spend a lot less money in courts, we'd be able to spend a lot more money in the program that we're actually trying to deliver.
I think most people would prefer their hospital be better funded than the local league of we oppose everything lawyers. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely. Yeah. And that's one of the things we're working on.
Great.
Thank you so much, Congressman Mike Simpson. We always love having you on the program. Folks, follow him on X at @CongMikeSimpson. He is doing fantastic work there for the House Appropriations Committee and fighting to bring this country back to sanity. Breaking Battlegrounds will be coming back with more in just a moment.
All right, imagine this. You're running for president. Yes, president. What's the first thing you need? Well, besides the $1 million fundraising, you need to secure your web domain. You need your name, .vote. Easy to remember, straight to the point, and a direct link to your campaign. No, but seriously, whether you're getting out to vote or convincing people that yes, you can fix the potholes on Main Street, a .vote domain helps you stand out. It's not just a website, it's a call to action. Head over to GoDaddy.com or name.com, type in your name, .vote, and boom, you're ready to make a lasting impact. Get started today with your .vote web address.
Hey,
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds. Our next guest up today, Ken LaCorte, is a friend of the program, spent 20 years behind the scenes at Fox News, and now hosts the podcast Elephants in Rooms, where he dives into the tough conversations most people avoid. Follow him on X at Ken LaCorte. Ken, welcome back to the program.
Ken, so all hell has broken out this week with Jimmy Kimmel and the FCC. My first question to you is, do you think that Trump's appointed FCC chair is overstepping his responsibility or just simply being a media enforcer for Trump?
You know, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, he is certainly doing things that no other FCC commissioner has done in recent years. Then the question is well, should they have done this in recent years? And, you know, the whole FCC setup is a little bit of a scam in the sense that the airwave rights that CBS, NBC, ABC get, that's the biggest form of corporate welfare. It's billions and billions of dollars of value that they get for zero. They don't pay for those things, and you know you can put up a pizza making commercial on for an hour on Channel 2 at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're going to get millions of people watching it. And so it's put things in a bizarre situation. So this was obviously set up years and years ago when you could only divide the television bandwidth into so many channels, and so you had to give monopolies to those entities that got it. And hey, the first three that got it were ABC, CBS, NBC. And the fig leaf was, well, you can have these for free, but you better do things in the public good. They've had the equal, the fair. We give fair and balanced. You know, this is why you see when you go in at 2 a.m. and you can't go to sleep. You see all these ads to prevent suicide and against drug abuse, because they legally have to say that they are not being just a for-profit entity, but they're helping society. Well, that's kind of all nonsense, and it's just this massive gravy train that's going on. Well, because of that, the FCC has a lot more power than I think it should have, because the FCC is now saying, well, are we enforcing those equal protection things? Are you allowed to be doing that? And to be honest, I don't think there should be any government entity who says Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't say that and he should get off the air.
Right.
What they should say is, how about this? For 5 years, every 5 years, we have an open bid on how much the airspace of Channel 2 is. Put in your billions of dollars, give it to the government, and let us pay a little bit less in taxes, and then you could say whatever you want on that.
Right.
So the whole thing is just this kind of unholy, mixed-up thing that allows an FCC commissioner to be telling, to be kind of winking and nodding, and, nice network you got there. Shame if something would have to it. I mean, as a conservative, I don't like that.
No.
So, yeah, look, I'd throw out the whole thing.
So what do you think? So should we have them start paying?
Oh, I would. Trump
For example,
kind of set.
You buy domains. You have a domain for your podcast and your YouTube show. So I'm part of that ICANN community, which governs this. And like for every domain you sell, you have to give 50, 60 cents to ICANN, which governs the internet. I mean, why couldn't we have the same structure for public broadcasting for the 4 channels?
And we're only talking about a handful of channels, too. The other 4,000 channels on your cable system, we've figured out a way. And nobody's and if an FCC commissioner came up and said, well, I've got a problem with MSNBC or I've got a problem with Fox News Channel, the answer would be, well, go pound sand. We don't broadcast over the airwaves. You don't control us in any way, shape, or form. And that model works pretty well.
Yeah, 100%. Ken, want to move on a little bit here. There's been a lot in the news, and I don't think people really understand what went on because perhaps they don't understand the Murdoch family. But big news coming out of Fox News. Can you tell us what's going on there or what's gone on there?
And why is it a big deal?
Yeah, so it was one of these things that not a whole lot, even people, look, I know a lot of high-up people at Fox News Channel who had no idea really what was going on because it was kind of secretive court hearings out of Nevada. Long story, well, the punchline is that Lachlan Murdoch now will control, at least for the next 25 years, he will control Fox News and the remaining Murdoch assets of Fox. They sold a big bunch of stuff off to Disney a handful of years ago. Mm-hmm. Years ago, like 1999, Rupert set up an irrevocable trust for his children. So what that means is he set this up, how they will take over and run it, how they will get all his billions of dollars after he's dead. But the problem, and you set up an irrevocable trust, especially if you're a billionaire, because you save billions of dollars in taxes. There's a way to avoid a lot of inheritance taxes if you set up an irrevocable trust, meaning you can't change it, versus is the way that, I got my kids in my will, one doesn't treat me right on Christmas, and he's out and the girl gets more money, right? So, but there are huge tax benefits to that. Well, as time went on, and as the family, as most of his kids went liberal and one of his kids went conservative, he realized, hey, the kids who hate Fox News, they're going to end up controlling this because they have the voting rights on this, and that didn't sit well with him. And so for years behind the scenes, they have been trying to change that around. The dad offering them money. They then went and had a probate court, I believe, in Nevada, where they had some privacy rights. That's why you really haven't heard too much about this. Rupert lost in the main round there, and they said nope. The judge said you got to keep what you had. You can't take vote. He wasn't trying to take money away from the kids. He was trying to take voting rights away from the kids. Then he got a good court ruling, and long story short is, as of about 11 days ago, the family all came to an agreement where each of the three other kids, meaning not Lachlan, so that would be James, Elizabeth, and Prudence. And James is a hardcore lefty who donates, many millions of dollars to the left. He's big on global warming. He doesn't like the Fox News channel. Elizabeth's kind of in the same boat, but not as big. And then the other daughter,
the channel that's made them rich.
Yeah,
that channel.
It's I mean, but a lot of ugly stuff came out. It's like, they don't talk anymore. Like the three kids haven't talked to their dad in years. And in the court hearings, it was ugly stuff. I mean, he hasn't seen a grandkid, and the first thing that pops to mind as a father is, man, never set up an irrevocable trust, because you never know what those little bastards are going to do in a few years. B, I mean, the Murdoch kids should be in the dictionary as here's what ingratitude looks like. Could you imagine giving somebody? I mean, he ended up buying them off for an extra $1 billion.
I know.
Apiece.
Well, my favorite part.
He gave him $2 billion a piece years ago with the Disney. Could you imagine giving somebody $3,000 million and they won't talk to you?
Well, Ken, we're going to take a break here, but my one point that really cracked me up when I read the New York Times article, one of their sticking points was they wanted extra money to pay their taxes, and I just thought that is the perfect example of a progressive. Give me more money so I can pay my taxes.
Exactly.
Oh, you can't make this stuff up, and we don't. At least not here on Breaking Battlegrounds. We will be coming back with more from Ken LaCorte in just a moment. Stay tuned.
Old Glory Depot isn't just a website. It's a movement. Featuring unapologetically conservative shirts and gear, we're proud to deliver 100% American-made products. From premium materials to bold designs, every purchase supports American jobs and celebrates our country. Show your pride, support your values, and shop oldglorydepot.com, because patriotism never goes out of style.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with your host, Chuck Warren. I'm Sam Stone, continuing on now with Ken LaCorte, friend of the program, and an executive who spent 20 years at Fox News behind the scenes. Follow him on X at Ken LaCorte.
So, Ken, we were talking a little bit off air. How important do you think it is for the conservative movement that Fox stayed in conservative hands, that Elon Musk bought Twitter? What would happen if both those disappeared to conservative viewpoint?
We've seen three huge changes in the last 20 years. The first was the existence of Fox News, and it really, really did fundamentally change the debate in the United States. And its loss, while not as important as if it disappeared 15 years ago when it was the only voice,
right,
its loss was bad. The second big thing for conservatives was Elon buying Twitter, and part of it was because Twitter is just a massive entity, and it drives a lot of national debate. But it also it disallowed the other big social networks from all playing the same censorship game. In other words, when we were in pandemic times, when Twitter was just you'd pop up and you'd be like, I'm not sure about that, and you just disappear into the ether. I had a burgeoning conservative outlet, Facebook, and I had 3.5 million followers on Facebook, and they made it disappear overnight one time for something I didn't do, and I didn't get an email response back from them. So you had that tight troika of Twitter, of Facebook, and of YouTube, who were spanking anyone who didn't go along with the official government narrative on a lot of things. And when one breaks, it makes it harder for the others. Just like Fox News, it wasn't just about one channel. It was about one channel that's reporting something that I think is important, and then I go to the other guys and it's not there. It points out that you can't pretend as though something doesn't exist when one channel has it and is taking it live. If none of them do it, then it's like, well, it didn't exist. Nobody bothers. But it belies the notion that there was only one sense of news. So look, it's huge for conservatives that Fox will stay that way. Less so, though, in the sense that the entire conservative ecosphere has been growing and growing and growing. And at some point during the Biden administration, it equaled the liberal media. We always talk about the media being liberal. Well, if the media was liberal in the broader sense of that word, the Puerto Ricans would have turned against Donald Trump because of that joke at the Nazi thing. And now, that they would have believed that this shooter was a MAGA child of, the guy who killed Charlie Kirk was a MAGA child who this and that, and he was part of the Groyper and whatever junk that they were trying to spin. Now, that doesn't happen anymore. So Trump wouldn't have won this last time had the media not been kind of on par. And what we see is they can't drive a false narrative the way they could just 5 years ago.
Well, I think Twitter was particularly important because it is a forum that allows people to directly call out when someone in left or right is saying something ridiculous and untrue.
Friend of the show, a reporter from the Atlantic, reporter from the Atlantic, talking about Mike Pence's speech, and he took it totally out of context and he just posted the whole thing. It's not what he said, right? And so that's been very helpful. The one other purchase we're missing is Paramount being bought by the Oracle founder's son, and the shakeup that's going to happen at CBS News if they bring Barry Weiss on. Let me ask you this. We got 2 minutes left here. So you're getting this great following on your YouTube channel, Elephants in the Room. Everybody, really well done. Highly recommend you subscribe to it. Our social media following has really grown. We're over 300,000 now. And so I'm always interested on what we post that catches on and what doesn't, right? So if I post something on Ukraine, Russia, it's mid-level. If I say bomb Iran, it just takes off, right? Or any crazy school board stuff, right? What topics have you found that you've done videos on or discussed that just really capture people's imagination? But I look here at your videos and just some great views on it. But the one on the Menendez murderers, you didn't even break 6 digits, and it's an interesting story. So what do you think? We have 1 minute left. So what do you find interesting?
On that one, I think I'm too old, and you're too old. Because we remember the Menendez brothers, and you talk to somebody who's like one of these kids in their 40s, and they're like, "What was that? Some Hispanic band? What was that?" So, my shtick, and I can't really predict the ones that do great, but my shtick is I'm going to take something that sounds horribly awful to talk about, and break it down in a way like that news guys would have done it 15 years ago. And it can be like, do Jews control the media? It's like, oh my God, that sounds like one that we're all gonna be donating to some nonprofit soon. But then asking them, it's like, okay, well, what's a Jew? What's the media? And let's look at the reality.
Ken, the fact of the matter is my sister was a reporter for many years at the Chicago Tribune, and there is one day a year when that was true. Christmas, Jews do the news. Folks, Breaking Battlegrounds coming right back.
In today's digital world, standing out is more important than ever. Whether you're running for office, leading a cause, or hosting a vote for the cutest pet in town, you need a web domain that's simple, memorable, and action-oriented. You need a .vote web domain. It's clear, impactful, and establishes a lasting presence for your campaign. Don't wait. Head to GoDaddy.com or Name.com, type in your name.vote, and get started today. Because after all, every pet deserves a web address that's as special as they are.
Welcome back to Breaking Battlegrounds with yours, Chuck Warren and Sam Stone in the studio with us, and always a pleasure to have any of our guests in here where we get to have. I always think the conversations are better when we got someone in
100%,
studio.
100%.
And this is a guy who's got some experience being in studios. Former NFL kicker Jay Feely, trading in the gridiron for the halls of Congress.
That's right.
That is a downgrade, my friend. I hate
Trust me, I know. My wife reminds me all the time about it, too.
You're like literally about ready to enter summer camp and do it 24/7, 365.
Well, and the thing is, like, we were at this phase in life where we're going to be empty nesters. We've had a plan for 20 years what we were going to do. We built a house 20 years ago that we only get to see, for like a month in the summer. So we were going to go up to Michigan for all the hot months for 4 months and spend that time up there. But, my wife is the one who's been pressing me for a few years. Like, is this God's will for you to be in broadcasting? I kept saying, I love my job. Like, stop saying that to me. This is fun. I only have to work 5 months of the year. I get 7 months off to play golf, and they pay me really well. But I just felt a press, over the last year. And really when President Trump was shot, that was the moment that I seriously started thinking, I'm going to do something different coming up. And the Trump administration asked me if I would be a U.S. ambassador. And a lot of people don't know that. I put in an application for that. I specifically said Haiti because I had done a lot of work in Haiti.
Oh, interesting.
After the earthquake, I'd been down, probably 10 times. And we built a bunch of homes down there, thousands of homes. We did a feeding program where we fed 100,000 a day. Partner with a great group down there called Mission of Hope. And so I specifically wanted to go there, even though that is the last place everybody wants to go in that role. And then when Andy Biggs decided that he was going to run for governor and that seat was going to be open in the district that we live, where my wife was a teacher, where I was on the school board, where I was a coach, it was just natural to say, okay, I think I'm going to run for that seat. And I really, talked to the White House and the Republicans and Congress, in D.C. and said, which one do you want me to do? And they said, we want you to run for office.
That's really important. I hate to put this on some of the people on our side of the aisle also, but this game of musical chairs or musical districts where people are moving around and renting an apartment inside a district.
I wouldn't have done it anywhere else.
You have raised a family in this district.
Not just raised a family. We came here in 2010 to play for the Cardinals. Played for them for 4 years. Then my career was really over. I had a little cup of coffee with the Bears after that and, just decided, hey, we're going to move back to Florida where I grew up or to Michigan where my wife was from. But we loved Gilbert. We loved that area. We loved our school that my kids were in at Gilbert Christian. And, just decided, no, this is where we're going to finish raising our kids and our family. And that's where we've done all of our charity work, and for me, like, that's who I am at my core as a servant. I want to utilize the platforms that I've been given from the NFL to broadcast and have an impact on people's lives. And, places like House of Refuge, it's just this amazing organization that has 88 homes for single homeless mothers. It's transitional housing. And when, under the Obama administration, they lost their federal funding. They called my wife and I one day and said, hey, that $2 million that we get every year, we don't have it. We're going to have to kick all these women who 50% or more come from domestic violence out onto the streets in the middle of the summer in Arizona. And my wife couldn't sleep all night. And so we started doing all the private funding for them and created the Adopt a Home program. And so many guys like Carson Palmer and Calais Campbell and Patrick Peterson, Larry Fitzgerald, all these guys in the Cardinals, adopted a home, and then we got businesses to do it. And so we've done that ever since. And so it's just natural, because we've poured into that community in particular so much to say, hey, I want to represent them in Congress.
Well, I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier about Haiti. So we've covered Haiti a lot. It is a country that Sam and I worry about because of the total disrepair and the anarchy there and the gangs. We really feel it's in the United States national security interest to get that country's crap in gear, right? Because
you are 100%. Not only that, it's become a narco state.
Well, no, that's the point. So that's my next point. So you're talking about we're sending destroyers, military in the Caribbean for it. It's become a narco state. You're going to have Chinese there. You're going to have Iran there.
Colombia, Venezuela, like everyone's tentacles are there to try to...
And it's a lot closer to our shores than all those countries.
And we scream about this. We sent a reporter down there. We've talked to Miami. I mean, we talk about this a lot. What do you think what should the United States be doing there?
Well, I think you have to partner, first of all, with the Haitian government right now.
And whoever that is.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been the problem. You haven't had leadership, and then you have, for 200 years, you've had 12 bourgeois families that have controlled Haiti, and they don't want to fix the problems in Haiti because that's where their power lies. And so you have this power struggle continually going on there, and the people of Haiti are the ones that struggle. And I think if we have the will to partner with the Haitian government to send a group in, which I know they're working on, to really go through and clear village to village and get rid of these gangs, because these gangs are going in. All the homes that we built, all the schools we built, the sports complex I built, all gone. All taken over by these gangs. They go in home to home, they kill, they rape, they do anything they want without any repercussion at all, and then they take over a village, and then they go to the next one. It's like a parasite. And you're right. We have to be for the security and the safety of our country, and to create a stable Haiti where people don't want to leave and come here.
Right.
Which is if I were there and I lived there, I absolutely would want to come here.
100%.
Now, I will tell you, we didn't legally adopt, but 2 young men, and did it legally and brought them here, and they moved into our house. We put them through Grand Canyon, one of them through Grand Canyon University, and I've seen the way legal immigration should work. And this young man, Delmont, who came here at 19, and he went to college. He spoke English as a second language, but he got a 3.3 GPA. He got an internship. They loved him because he loved to come to work. And, he was able then to get a job, to get married, to buy a home. And, I sat there with him on his driveway and just said, think back to when you were homeless in Haiti when we met, and the journey God has taken you on, and to be a part of that has really been special.
All right, affordability. This is a big issue. Yeah. Are you noticing it with those in Gilbert? Is there an affordability issue, and what can Congress do?
The median house price in my district is $450,000, and so when you sit there and you look at that with 7% interest rates, and young people, and they have to have a vision of hope. That's what Charlie Kirk talked about all the time on those college campuses. Mm-hmm. Is giving young people hope that they can be a success, that they will be able to buy a home, that they'll be able to provide for their family, and that they're going to be able to be economically successful in this country. And too many young people don't see that now. The average age, I think, is 38 years old, first-time home buyer.
Yes,
now.
it's what it is.
It used to be 30. It's gone up in the last decade to 38. And that's a problem for this country. And the conservative movement and Republicans, we have to show young people that our policies are the right policies, that we're going to create GDP growth over 3%, that we're going to keep inflation under 3%, hopefully down towards 2%, and that we're going to create jobs and infrastructure that are going to allow them to be successful. That's how you reach young people.
One thing, I'm going to throw this in there as a policy suggestion for you, Jay. Transit-oriented development funds are a huge, huge pot of federal money that goes to local jurisdictions, your cities, your states, your counties, to help build high-capacity transit, bus rapid transit, light rail, subways, all this stuff. I question those funds, how they're used, but one thing is—
look at California.
Right. If we're going to be doing that, those funds should require an automatic total upzoning along those lines. Because the only way that anything like that is ever valuable is if you build real density around it so that people have a reason to use it. And we don't. We're spending billions and trillions of dollars on these programs, but we don't create the conditions that would make them usable.
Yeah, and the first 2 things that I would think about are— you had to secure the border, because when you have 10 million, 20 million people come across, of course that's going to have an impact on housing prices. Absolutely. And then the second thing is somehow find and create ways in Congress to encourage more home ownership, giving those young people the ability to go out and buy a home first time and invest. Because If you're a renter society, if all you're doing is renting and you have no ownership in anything, then you don't care about it.
You have no skin in the game.
That's right. And so then you don't care about the country. And as Republicans, our greatest challenge across the country is the rise of Mondami in New York, and his policies should be a warning sign to every single conservative across the country that we have to provide the alternative for young people. If they don't have hope, then they're going to say, okay, the government will provide for me.
Correct.
Do you know how important that having a stake in it is? Because I have a handful of apartment units I rent. I at one point allowed a Section 8 renter. I agreed with the city of Phoenix, let them in. Well, the entire difference really financially is that they don't have responsibility on move out for all the damages that they've done. They destroyed
what do they
apartment.
care, right?
They destroyed that apartment. I've had dozens of other tenants over the years. None of them have left an apartment in anything like that condition. Personal responsibility has to be part of the program.
You have to have a society where people feel they have skin in the game, where they have ownership in it. If you don't have that, it shows up in their attitudes, how they go to work, how they handle their neighborhood, how do they handle as being a parent at school. They just have no ownership in it.
Yeah, and I think one of your main jobs in Congress is creating equal opportunities to
100%,
success.
100%.
And showing people, hey, this is the way to get there. You can't control outcomes because you can't control behaviors, but you can control those pathways.
What's an issue you really want to tackle in Congress? If I go today and say, you're elected, you want to get one issue done the first or second term, we'll give you, you got to find the bathroom first.
Well, the first thing I would do without question is change everything in regard to our natural resources, in particular, the rare earth elements that we have. It takes 10 to 20 years for a processing refining plant to get online, 30 years on average for a mining institution to get out there and to start mining and producing. It's not realistic for us to compete. And when you look at China, they control almost over 80% of those rare earth minerals. And so we are at a distinct disadvantage economically, but also security-wise. And it has to be from Congress, because you have to create those economic incentives for those companies to invest in. Because if I'm looking out 10, 20 years, same thing with nuclear.
Right.
And I'm putting billions of dollars on the line, but I'm worried about, hey, maybe 4 years from now it's a different government and a different party in charge, and they're going to change all the laws, and then I'm going to be out those billions. Well, I can't take that risk.
Well, and you made the point about China. So China controls 80% of it. It's not because they're the only ones that have it. We have it here in the United States,
and
right?
We don't go after it. Yes,
is it 32 of them?
Yeah.
And we have like 25 of them here in Arizona or something?
Oh, yeah. 25
we should, here in Arizona, we should be one of the leaders. But you have to create the right environment business-wise so that they can go in there and they can mine them, and not just mine them, but refine them and process them, because that's where China has the monopoly on the world. But even when they're produced all over right now, even when they're produced here, we have to send 90% of our minerals to China to process them to send them back here.
It's crazy. And, matter of fact, what was the stat we saw about the United States government's full of attorneys and Chinese are full of engineers?
So every leader in China's Politburo now has a degree in engineering. Every single one.
So I see it in Michigan all the time, and up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where my wife's from, where we go, they have very high unemployment. There was upwards of 20% after COVID. Sure. But they fight these mines. They fight the mines. And here's the thing. They fight it for environmental reasons. We do them much cleaner than the rest of the world.
100%.
And so if we don't do them here, you're not saving the world. You're not saving the environment. You're creating a situation where in India and in China and in South America, these mines are still being run and produced, but they're doing it much dirtier than we would do it here. And then we're still at a disadvantage.
Afghanistan and across Africa places
absolutely.
where they're using child slave labor to do it. And the environmentalists tell us it's one planet, right? Which I agree with them on that. It is one planet. So why would a mine here that is done in a way that is environmentally responsible be a bad thing, but a mine in Afghanistan with child labor and zero environmental controls is just fine?
When you look at the magnets for our planes, when you look at the military weapons that we have, it's all those rare earth minerals that go into producing those, as well as the lithium batteries and all the things for our future. And when you look at AI and what's coming and the need for energy, we're at 1 terawatt right now trying to get to 2. China's at 3 terawatts already trying to get to 7. And whoever wins the energy production business will win the next AI revolution that's coming.
We got 1 minute left here with you. We were just talking with Congressman Simpson before, and they had a resolution today honoring Charlie Kirk and against violence, political violence. And 58 Democrats voted against it.
Unbelievable.
What do you and Mrs. Feely need to spend a weekend or two a month in D.C. and start taking their Democrat colleagues out to dinner and just start trying to break down some barriers so we can have some normal conversations again?
Well, we walked out of the White House from Caroline Leavitt's office, walked out, and that's when we found out about Charlie Kirk.
Oh, wow.
And, my wife that night, we were laying in bed, she was crying, and she said to me, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And I said, I have more resolve now than I ever have. I know that God has put me in this place and opened these doors for this specific reason. He put it on my heart to lead broadcasting, to come here to support President Trump, support his America First policies, but be somebody like Charlie Kirk who is willing to have those hard conversations, that isn't afraid of those conversations, that's willing to talk to people on the other side of the aisle, across the aisle. That doesn't mean you don't believe in America First policies. That doesn't mean that you're not a conservative. That means you want to try to accomplish things. That's why I'm going to D.C.
Also, let's be honest, he was an NFL kicker. He's had people who wanted to kill him before.
All the time. I had my own Saturday Night Live skit. It's called The Jay Feely Story, The Long Ride Home. Dane Cook played me. It was 4 minutes from Seattle back to New York.
Did you see the Bills kicker miss that field goal last night, like 30 yards to the left? Like, oh my gosh, what's going on with this poor guy?
And now, folks, you're going to miss us on Breaking Battlegrounds until we're back on the air next week. But make sure you're downloading the podcast, breakingbattlegrounds.vote.
Thanks for having me.
I say this every election cycle, and I'll say it again. The 2024 political field was intense, so don't get left behind in 2025. If you're running for office, the first thing on your to-do list should be securing your name on the web. With the yourname.vote domain from GoDaddy.com, you'll stand out and make your mark. Don't wait. Get yours today.
Oh, what do you get when you mix cocoa, candy canes, and strong Wi-Fi signals? You get a podcast. That's right, Santa has a podcast. I'm telling stories from the North Pole, sharing elf updates, and answering your questions. And yes, spilling some holiday secrets. It's festive, it's fun, and fueled entirely by cookies. Tune in wherever you get your podcast. It's Santa has a podcast. Just press play.
Welcome to the podcast portion of Breaking Battlegrounds. I want to thank all of our guests today, Congressman Mike Simpson, Ken LaCorte, and Jay Feely, who we hope we will be calling Congressman here in the future. Really appreciated having all of them. And now, as we are doing most weeks now, we're moving to talk with Gary Gygi. He is our senior financial expert and advisor for this program. And hopefully for many of you out there who are looking right now for someone to help navigate what are increasingly choppy waters in our economy. And for many people right now, one of the topics we wanted to touch on this week, Gary, is that McKinsey estimates we're about to enter a massive shortage of wealth management advisors with a looming retirement boom. An enormous transfer of wealth is about to take place. And quite frankly, the country is not prepared for it. And it's kind of a critical moment.
It absolutely is a critical moment. I think this is interesting. It's an interesting topic to me. I started in this business about 36 years ago, and a lot of people that I know and have gone through the industry together, they're looking at retiring. I'm not, but still, the shortage of financial advisors, wealth advisors, it doesn't surprise me. I think the take on it is really fascinating. I've got a son that is young 20s in college studying finance, and a lot of his generation take a look at financial advisors and say, why do I need them? I'll just trade on Robinhood and buy Bitcoin.
Or listen to TikTok.
Or listen to TikTok. And so the interesting part of that, you guys, is when you look at the data, when they're about 30 and actually starting to earn money, then it totally flips and it says, we want to speak with a human being. We want to talk with someone who has some experience, not someone who's brand new in the business, but someone who knows what they're talking about. I think that's fascinating. And I guess not a whole lot surprising in that when you're in your young 20s, probably haven't started to make a lot of money yet, unless you're Chuck's son. And so they're trying to figure life out. And during the COVID years, and a lot of them got COVID money, started trading what are called meme stocks, essentially poor stocks that trade a lot on volatility. And so some of them made a lot of money, and then a lot of them lost it all as the stocks came down. So that's what's fascinating about this is that as your knowledge gets greater, as your wealth starts to increase, because maybe you got a great job now, you're in your mid-30s, you're getting married, you're having children, all of those serious decisions lead to people thinking, okay, I've got a full-time job. I really need a professional to help me plan for my future. And I think that's where we are. And if there's a 90,000 to 110,000 shortage in wealth advisors, I think productivity is going to help the people that are in the business to become much better and appeal to the younger generation.
Well, Chuck, I would say we have too many lawyers, so this may be an opportunity. little career switch here.
Well, yeah, and the nice thing about this industry is people have hope who are doing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
People generally aren't grumpy when they go see a financial advisor start investing. Am I right on that, Gary?
You are right on that. And so when people come to see a financial advisor, it is almost to a man, not someone who hopes to be wealthy someday, but someone that's on their way. And that's why they're looking for a professional. And they have real money, and maybe it's in their 401k, and they're wanting to know how to better manage their 401k. I get that a lot. What I don't get is, young millennials that are saying, I have no money, and I want to talk to you. So I don't get a lot of that, because I think it's when they're in their young 20s, again, they're trying to figure life out. And so some of them think they've got... Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Gary, would you suggest that person come and talk to you who doesn't have money? To start down the road, is that a valuable conversation that they should be seeking out?
It is. And so a lot of the conversations I have with young millennials is in group settings, or we do a lot of 401k business. So going to companies whose 401ks we're helping, and then talking to the employees. And so the young 20-something-year-olds come in and talk to me and they say, I don't have any money on my own, but I've got this 401k I'm trying to grow. How do I do it better? How do I become wealthy like my parents? And so that's where the conversation starts. Honestly, you guys, if we can get them started investing, whether it's 401ks or on their own in their 20s, maybe early 30s, retiring with a very large investment account is super doable. If you're waiting till your 40s or late 50s, it's almost impossible to catch up.
Interesting. Well, Gary, one last question before we leave you today. The Fed cut interest rates 0.25. It was a little underwhelming. What are your thoughts on the interest rate cut?
I thought it was underwhelming too. I thought a half a point would have been more justified. Again, using the Fed's own language, they're tight, which means they should have lowered interest rates a while ago. But what they did is generally not a one-and-done scenario. It is a series of interest rate cuts, which will probably take place over the next 18 months. That should bring interest rates down maybe a full percentage points. That will benefit people that are trying to refinance a mortgage, people that are trying to get into a home. It also helps the stock market for sure. It's like a tailwind to the equity market. So the Fed lowering interest rates, and I think this is why the president wants it so bad, it's good for the economy as a whole, right, and should benefit a lot of people, except for the savers who will earn a little bit less on their savings.
Gary Gygi, we always love having you on the program. Folks, check out his business there and the ways they can help you at GygiCapital.com. Gary, we'll look forward to having you back on next week.
Have a good weekend, guys. Thanks very much.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. So is it time for music?
I think so.
I think it's time.
It's time for music. Let's roll it.
Talking about crimes and the ones committed, murder and mayhem in a world of sin and Kiley's on a roll. Kiley's got a corner and she's gonna start spilling out all the true crime in the world we're living in. So come and take a spin and listen in.
I just love
okay, Chuck singing along right at the end of that. I think we're going to have to go full bore one of these days.
Yeah.
I want to hear the whole version here, Chuck.
It started making me laugh because my story today is actually about a singer-rapper guy named David D4.
Oh, this is a good story.
Very good story. And I didn't know if we could play his music on here because of copyright issues. And so then I was going to sing it, and I practiced out loud, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not going to pretend to sing the song.
Wait.
Is he a rapper?
Well, I don't know. They called him a rapper, but like I listened to his music, and it's very much just like a poet. He's
more
very
soul.
Yeah, like soul, but like he edits his music a lot. So basically, who this guy is. He starting in 2022, he was this streamer online for YouTube, which is also why I wanted to talk about it, because it talks to gaming and just like what is this gaming environment that these kids are in and the violence surrounding it. Because he wanted to be this YouTube gamer. And his videos weren't going viral. So what he was doing, he's videoing himself talking and like playing the video games.
The game. Right. Yeah.
So then he realized the videos that were going viral were the ones with music behind them. So he started putting music behind them, and they would go more viral, but then they would get taken down for copyright issues. So he was complaining to his mom about it, and his mom was like, just start writing your own music. So he did that and then would film himself videoing.
I mean, that's a good mama.
Yeah.
It's a smart mama.
Yeah.
Smart mama.
But like, until.
But no, you learn about it. Remember, we used to have our music, and people criticized, so we picked, and now we hired some gal to write, Brennan to hire and write your song.
Yeah, and
she wrote the Santa podcast one. And
I'm still saying the next time she comes in here, we get the live version.
I agree.
Yeah, so then he tweeted his new YouTube video and said first Fortnite player to use his own song in video, and he said that's what made the video go completely viral, and that's like really what took it off. So then he started a TikTok. This was in 2022, and he started covering songs with like a chipmunk voice. He would like change his voice, and then he released his own song with a chipmunk voice, and people were like, "We want to hear your own voice, like slow it down, do whatever." And everyone loved it. That went viral in 22, and then in 23 he was opening for SZA. So like this is how fast he
that's a big
yeah. And so during this whole time, he supposedly has this secret girlfriend named Celeste, and this is like all according to social media, and like which is why like never get caught up in that social media crowd, because like they'll find everything about you. So fast forward to now, on September 8th. A body was found in his Tesla that was abandoned in the Hollywood streets, that was then towed, and the tow yard was like, this car smells like human. And so they find a decomposed body that's dismembered in the trunk of his Tesla that's registered to him. And he's on tour. So his fans are immediately like, this guy's innocent, it's not him. But it turned like the cops are like, the body is so decomposed. Like this body's been here for a minute.
Right.
They towed the car because it was there for over a month, and like his tour barely started like 3 weeks ago.
And like his big hit is Romantic Homicide.
Romantic Homicide, which he released on this girl's birthday, and this girl went missing in April of 24. And it was released on the birthday. And there's a line in the song that says, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true." And then he has another song that he released 10 months after the disappearance called "One More Dance." And the whole music video is him dragging a dead body, putting him in the trunk.
Oh my gosh.
The car driving off, and then him going on to live his life. And then like later in the music video, when he's ready, I guess like in the song, he's like now accepted the death of the relationship. He then buries the body. So people are alluding to the fact like, so was the body in the back of the truck and he just hasn't been ready to bury it? Like what?
I mean, it seems like before you go on tour, if you had killed someone,
you should tie up the loose ends.
This would be a to-do. Say, before I go, I need my driver's license, my passport, and I need to bury the body.
And visit a pig farm.
I don't think it's him.
Well, so that's the thing is his friends.
No, because you're not going to forget about it.
His fans think it's not him. And there was this other girl, Celeste, who did play this person in the video. She was the girl, I believe, is her in the video.
I mean, never underestimate murderous women in a love triangle.
I also want to point out,
history is clear on this.
When the girl went missing, she was 13. Celeste.
How long has she been missing? A year?
A year.
Whoa, how old is this guy?
He's 20. So at the time, he would have been 18 2 years ago.
So she's been missing 2 years.
Yeah, a year and a half, basically.
Now she's dismembered, decomposed. How long do they think she's been passed away?
They haven't.
I don't think it's him.
They haven't done the autopsy.
I think it's an imitation thing. I'm going to call it right now. I don't think it's him.
Well, I guess we'll have to stay tuned. But
I mean, yeah.
He wrote all of these songs. Oh, they also had matching tattoos with because
Okay.
I would assume because she was
Can
13.
I just start out with the fact that he was 18 and she was 13 and my skin's crawling right there to begin with?
None of yes, all absolutely yicky, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to use the word yicky. But I just can't believe saying, I'm going on tour and I'm just going to leave this in the back of the Tesla.
He also had a song that was leaked in 2023 that was called Celeste Demo. And he talks about a girl with her name tattooed on her chest, smell of her clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed. I think he was just very obsessed with her.
Well,
but I guess we'll see.
But again,
This is all alleged.
leaving town, to-do list,
He did continue his tour when the body was found, and then now he's going home.
get a dog sitter, turn the air conditioning down, get
Very-
rid of the body.
very thoughtful.
You know, I mean, it seems like a to-do list, right?
Yep.
He wasn't ready to part.
Do you have another story for us today besides this?
Well, no, I got caught up in that one, but there was a You Love heist. Did you hear about the scuba heist at Disney?
Yes.
Someone scubaed into
so good.
to Disneyland or World, I
Disney
think.
World.
Disney
Disney
World,
World.
and then robbed a one of the restaurants, and then put their scuba gear back on and scuba it out.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I missed that, and that is fantastic.
I do love a good heist.
You do love a heist
Because a heist takes
It's so
planning
old
like
school.
that.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I mean, somebody one day was with the kids and said, "I know how to." You know, it's sort
It's
of like
probably the least expected.
it's sort of like Nicolas Cage in National Treasure when he says, "We're gonna steal the Declaration of Independence," right? And it's sort of that aha moment that he's walking the kids around, or whoever it is. It could be she. I don't want to be a gender biased here. And they walk around with the kids and said, "I know how to rob this restaurant."
So I will say I saw a video of someone in New York, and they go, "Oh my gosh, today in the subway I saw my first person that got their purse snatched." And they go, "Are we reverting to these old time crimes again?" And then someone in the comments was like, "Yeah, wait, so a bank was just robbed in my
Well,
in
that
my
stuff
town."
happens all the time. I just think now with social
Now we're
media,
covering
people
it.
bring it up. Yeah,
I mean, look, I think Entrapment was maybe one of Sean Connery's greatest movies.
Yes.
And if for no other reason than watching Catherine Zeta-Jones navigate the lasers. Yeah. But I mean, heists are fantastic.
No,
Heist
they
movies
take
are
good jewelry heists. That's why the ocean movies were so
right.
popular.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I want to close and talk about. So I'm sure you all have. I've just had a lot of people call me about Charlie Kirk, and they're not political, or they're somewhat political.
Right.
They weren't listening to his podcast. You know, they weren't going to conferences. But so I've been struck by it, and as I've tried to go and look at this senseless murder, I'm trying to understand it. There was an article I sent you this morning, and it was done out of Utah. It was a nationwide survey. Graphic images of Charlie Kirk shooting impacted many Americans. We had talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it said that when the friends and family members are added to the numbers, nearly 6 in 10 say they or someone close to them viewed the violent images.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you see the video, which I never wish I had seen, I think that sticks with you.
Well-
I've had a friend. I have a very close friend whose son was tragically killed in an accident in Southern California three years ago. He's a strong man, he's a man of faith, but he's not recovering. Now, I don't think he'll recover from child's death, but he's really not recovering per se. And a mutual friend of ours, we were talking the other day and discussing it, and I just said, I think it's because he's the one that had to identify the body. So that image is always there when he closes his eyes or starts thinking about it versus the siblings or
Right.
the mother, right? That image. I think that's a big part of this because it went on social media so fast. People saw it. And when you watch it and he's immediately hit, you knew this was gone.
And I would love a second breakdown of those numbers because I would guess that if you took people who identify themselves as progressive and more left,
right.
I would guess 8 out of 10 have not.
Yes.
Which means that 60% covers almost every Republican and independent in the country.
Or middle of the road.
Middle of the road Democrat.
Yeah, no.
So
I think
that's a problem for them.
Yeah, and I do think this is one reason we've all had these people who aren't involved in politics just become horrified by this, right? Besides the fact that he's young, he has a wife, 2 kids. I mean, it's just all very the sadness.
I think also the fact, one of the things I think that Charlie was very smart about was that he'd show up at these things in tennis shoes, jeans, and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
He looked like almost everybody's family member. You know what I mean?
No. Look, it's horrible what's happened. It's been disgusting. The people who have celebrated it. I actually had a funny conversation. I think I told you the story. I was meeting with a gentleman here this week who knew me from Utah 30 years ago. And as we were talking, he says, "You did something that really changed my life." What's that? I don't remember it. And he was talking about when Ron Brown, who was the Commerce Secretary for Clinton, was killed in a plane crash. He was in his 30s, and he was celebrating it with us. I was in there. And he says he'll never forget me looking up at him with a total glare, with like, "What's wrong with you?" And he says, it struck my core. I think my actual reaction should be what's normal.
That is a normal. I mean, well, to me, it's a normal.
I would be absolutely furious if someone, if Kamala or Pete Buttigieg or anybody else experienced that. I would be horrified by it. I don't want to live in a country like that.
No.
And that's why it was interesting. Congressman Simpson, when did he say that came? We only could go home 3 times a year, covered it?
I think in the last decade or so.
They do come home too much. And maybe for the benefit, they think coming home for the district helps them. Maybe we as constituents need to say, "I need you to go to dinner with Teresa from Michigan, who's of the Progressive Caucus. I need you to find out what's going on there and develop some relationship," because we just can't have a society where that's okay.
No, not at all. And I'm kind of out of tolerance for the people who have celebrated this type of act, and I'm out of tolerance for the hypocrisy.
Yes.
That we've seen in the last few weeks. I mean, with the Jimmy Kimmel thing and all this other stuff, right? All these people who were screaming bloody murder, demanding the censorship of every Republican, are now all of a sudden, destroyed, and the country is being torn apart because because the FCC chairman said something about Jimmy Kimmel.
What's it?
I'm kind of done with this, but at the same time, you have to kind of fight to work beyond that and say we've still got to find a way, like you're talking about, to come back together and find some things that we can agree on and move forward.
By the way, with all the Democrats complaining about free speech now,
for crying out loud, just stop!
Weren't they pushing net neutrality?
Every one of them.
Weren't they pushing net neutrality?
Remember, every one of them was cheering for Trump getting thrown off X. The sitting president of the United States being banned from the Twitter Twitter platform.
Look, I want to close, but this is the point why I think Jay Feely, has a wonderful ability with people one-on-one. You could just tell in the studio, right? We really got to have more people on both sides reaching out and trying to develop actual relationships. Because I don't know, we have talked about this, and then I heard Glenn Beck talk about it this week. 20 years ago, whether you were a Democrat, Republican, there were still some basic belief systems. We'll start with one. We all thought America was pretty great, right? That's not the case anymore.
No.
So I am trying to find out, if you want to bridge this divide, how do you bridge it, other than having real relationships with people and them understanding the other side's human as well. But there's a lot of unifying things we had 20 years ago we don't have now. And I would submit to you, it's not the right that's departed from it. It is clearly the left.
No, it is. And, this obviously ties back to the schools and to education, because we've seen so many teachers and professors across the country who were celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder, who have backed Hamas to the hilt. It is a anti-intellectual version of intellectualism that is deadly. And that I don't know, but we've got to root that out. We have got to tear those structures down and replace them with something that's honest again.
Yeah. Well, folks, thank you for joining us this week. We hope you have a great weekend. On behalf of Jeremy, Kiley, Sam, and I, have a great weekend. You can follow us at breakingbattlegrounds.vote or wherever you get your podcasts. Be good.